Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today is Friday, February 13th, 2026. And honestly, looking at the stack of reports we have on the desk today, if you are even a little bit superstitious, this particular date feels like it was chosen by a screenwriter, not the calendar.
It really does. It is a chaotic Friday the 13th. We're looking at a world that feels, well, unglued is the word that keeps coming to mind as I read through this.
Unglued is right. I mean, usually we try to find a nice, clean narrative arc for you, but today
It's all over the place.
we have a karaoke machine company, of all things, crashing the logistics market. We have organized crime rings stealing literal tons of snow crabs.
The snow crabs, yeah. We have to talk about the snow crabs.
And we have the fundamental physics of cancer cells being rewritten. It feels like a glitch in the simulation.
It sounds random when you list them like that, but when you actually sit down with the source material, and we're leaning heavily on Manal Mehta's latest market intelligence strategy memo today, you start to see the threads. It's not just chaos. It's about disconnects. It's about the massive gap between the stories we tell ourselves, the press release fiction, and the economic reality on the ground.
And nowhere is that fiction louder or more expensive than what we are calling the karaoke crash. We have to start here because, frankly, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. This is the hook for today.
It is the perfect place to start because it encapsulates everything Meta calls the AI efficiency mirage.
So, set the scene for us. We're talking about a company called Algorithm Holdings.
Right. Algorithm Holdings with a Y. Very clever.
Of course.
Until about 48 hours ago, this was a microcap company. We are talking about a market capitalization under $3 million. Tiny.
Just a speck on the market. And their business.
They manufactured karaoke machines, specifically the kind you find in dive bars that haven't been updated since, 2015. Still running on Windows XP, probably.
Okay, so we have a karaoke company. And on this random Friday morning, they issue a press release. What exactly did this piece of paper say?
Well, it wasn't just a piece of paper. It was a weaponized deployment of keywords. The press release claimed they had developed a revolutionary AI tool that would optimize trucking logistics using neural freight matching.
Neural freight matching?
Yeah.
That sounds impressive. It sounds like something real.
It does. It sounds very expensive. But here's the reality. They haven't landed a single U.S. software client. Their website, when people tried to check it, actually crashed.
Oh.
Not because the product was popular, but because the server couldn't handle the traffic. It was basically a PowerPoint presentation hosted on a budget server.
So a karaoke company pivots to AI logistics with a slide deck. In a rational world, the market would ignore this, right? Or maybe the stock would bump up a few cents on speculation.
In a rational world, yes. But we don't live in a rational world. We live in an algorithmic one. And this is where it gets terrifying.
Walk us through the timeline. The press release hits the wire. Then what?
Instantaneously. We're talking milliseconds. High-frequency trading algorithms bots that scrape news wires for keywords saw the combination of AI, logistics, optimization, and disruption.
And these bots, they don't know it's a karaoke company. They don't have that context.
They don't care. They don't have context. They have probability models. Their natural language processing, or NLP, models have learned that when those words appear together, it usually means bad news for the incumbents.
So it's pattern recognition.
Pure pattern recognition means disruption is coming. So the algorithms executed a sell order on the entire trucking sector.
Wait, so they didn't just buy the karaoke stock. They shorted everyone else.
Exactly. It triggered a sell now, ask later cascade. The Dow Jones Transportation Average dropped 4%, but that's just the average. If you look at the specific victims, it was a bloodbath. CHRW, which is a giant in freight brokerage,
A household name in that industry.
a behemoth, dropped 15% in roughly 2 hours. Landstar system dropped 16%.
That is billions of dollars in market capitalization.
Vaporized.
Because a bot read a press release from a company that probably still has unsold disco lights in a warehouse.
Correct. And this is what Mehta points out in the memo. It's algorithmic panic. The market is currently pricing in the idea of disruption so aggressively that it ignores the reality of competitive moats.
Let's pause on that term, competitive moats, because C.H. Robinson has thousands of employees, thousands of contracts, real trucks, moving real goods. That's a moat, right?
It is a massive moat. It's a network effect. It takes decades to build that network of shippers and carriers. You have relationships, trust, established credit lines. It's a deeply human business in a lot of ways.
But the algorithm doesn't see that.
The algorithms are programmed to believe that AI can dissolve that moat overnight. They're looking for the next Amazon, the next Uber, and they are terrified of being left holding the bag on the old tech. So when the keyword neural freight matching popped up, the risk model screamed, exit.
You have traders on Reddit literally posting, "I just lost my shirt because of a damn karaoke machine company." It feels like we've reached a peak level of absurdity.
It is absurd, but it's also an opportunity. This is thesis 1 in the source material. Mehta argues that this volatility is fake. It's noise.
And the recommendation is to what? Just ignore it.
The recommendation is to fade the panic.
Fade the panic, meaning do the opposite of what the crowd is doing.
Exactly. When the algorithms are dumping C.H. Robinson because of a ghost story, you step in and buy. You buy the fundamentally sound companies that have actual customers and actual cash flow. You bet on the fact that logistics is hard, physical work that can't be solved by a PowerPoint presentation.
It's a bet on reality over the press release fiction.
Precisely. The memo also mentions SIBO Global Markets as a play here.
SIBO, right. Why them?
Think of SIBO as the casino house. They run the options exchange. When volatility spikes, when everyone is panicking and buying insurance on their portfolios or speculating wildly,
The trading volume goes way up.
volume goes up on the exchange. And SIBO takes a tiny slice of every single trade.
So SIBO makes money on the chaos.
Precisely. If you believe that this kind of flash crash environment is the new normal, that AI buzzwords are going to keep triggering these irrational sell-offs, then you want to own the infrastructure that profits from the trading volume. It's a hedge against the absurdity.
So while the algorithms are chasing the shiny object, the smart money is betting on the fact that the shiny object is just a distraction.
That's the strategy. But if we pivot from this digital algorithmic panic to the physical world, we see a very different kind of reality check happening. It's happening in Detroit.
Let's talk about the great EV retreat. Because if the karaoke crash is about the market moving too fast, this story seems to be about the market realizing it was pushed in the wrong direction entirely.
Or pushed faster than the consumer was willing to walk.
The numbers in the report are staggering. Detroit's big three GM, Ford, Stellantis have announced $50 billion in write-downs.
$50 billion. With a B, that is a GDP-sized hole in the balance sheet. It's an astonishing admission of a failed strategy.
That is massive. They are canceling factories, they are pivoting capital back to gas-powered trucks, and get this, they are restarting production on V8 engines. The V8 is back.
The V8 is back. It's the internal combustion renaissance. But we have to ask the question, why now? Why February 2026? What changed?
It's the tax credit, isn't it, that has to be the trigger?
It is the single biggest catalyst. The $7,500 federal tax credit for EVs expired at the end of 2025. And the moment that subsidy vanished, the floor fell out.
The memo says sales collapsed by over 30% in Q4 of 2025.
Right. And you have to understand the economics here. If you're selling a $50,000 electric crossover, that $7,500 credit is effectively the dealer's margin or the incentive that makes the monthly payment palpable for a middle-class family. When you take that away, the math breaks.
So this confirms a pretty uncomfortable truth for the industry, doesn't it? That EV demand wasn't entirely organic.
It suggests it was largely subsidized. People were buying the cars because the government was paying them to do it. Now that the coupon is gone, the shoppers are gone. And the cars are just piling up on lots.
And it's not just the demand side, right? The politics are shifting too. You have lawmakers moving to abolish the credit entirely and repeal the fuel efficiency mandates that forced this push in the first place.
Exactly. So if you're the CEO of Ford or GM, you're looking at your spreadsheets and saying, why are we building billion-dollar battery factories for cars that are piling up on dealer lots while we can't build enough F-150s to meet demand? You pivot back to what works.
And what works is trucks. Big gas-guzzling trucks.
They're high margin, and people actually want to buy them without a government check attached. The source calls this a pairs trade opportunity.
Okay, hold on. For the listener who might not be day trading, explain a pairs trade, like I'm 5. How does that actually work?
Sure. A pairs trade is where you bet on two correlated assets moving in opposite directions. You go long, you buy one, and you go short, you bet against the other, trying to profit from the difference in their performance.
So in this case?
In this case, the trade is long legacy auto, Ford, GM, and short pure play EV stocks.
Because the market has spent the last 5 years punishing Ford for being a dinosaur and rewarding the EV startups with these insane valuations.
Exactly. The market said internal combustion is dead. But now, that dinosaur status is the safety net. Ford has a profitable business selling gas trucks to pay for its mistakes. The pure-play EV companies, they don't have that cushion. So you bet on the dinosaurs surviving and the startups struggling.
And here's where it gets really interesting. This pivot back to the old economy isn't exactly smooth sailing, because while they were chasing the EV dream, these car companies changed their supply chains.
They optimize for efficiency. They optimize for weight. And that brings us to the fire.
The Novelis aluminum plant in Oswego, New York.
Yeah. This is a critical failure point that nobody was looking at. This one plant is a primary supplier of automotive-grade aluminum for the Ford F-150.
Which is the best-selling vehicle in America for decades.
For decades, it's the profit engine of the company. And there was a massive fire. We aren't just talking about a small electrical fire. Aluminum fires are incredibly difficult to extinguish. They burn hot, and you can't just dump water on them because it can cause an explosion.
So the plant is offline. For how long?
Indefinitely. And it has cost Ford $2 billion already. But the deeper issue is why it hurts so much. Remember, Ford switched the F-150 to an aluminum body a few years ago.
To make it lighter, to meet those fuel efficiency standards that are now being repealed.
Exactly. The irony is just crushing. They re-engineered the truck to meet a government rule. They relied on a single source for this specialized material. And now that the plant is toast, they are forced to import tariff materials from abroad just to keep the assembly line moving.
So they optimize themselves into a corner.
It's the fragility of efficiency. If you optimize everything for a specific metric like weight, you lose robustness. You lose the ability to take a punch.
Which leads to the investment angle the memo highlights. Steel.
United States Steel, ticker X. The logic is fascinating. As automakers get spooked by this aluminum fragility, and as the fuel efficiency mandates get rolled back, they might pivot back to high-strength steel.
Because it's tougher. Or cheaper.
Both. Because it's cheaper, it's domestically available from multiple suppliers, and you aren't relying on a single specialized plant in upstate New York. It's the revenge of the old economy. Steel mills and V8s.
It really is. But speaking of supply chains breaking, fire is one thing, but theft is another. And we aren't talking about a guy breaking into a truck at a rest stop.
No. We are moving into segment 3. True crime in the supply chain. This is what Mehta calls the weaponization of the supply chain.
This is wild stuff. We're talking about ghost brokers. It sounds like a cyberpunk villain.
It basically is. This is organized crime moving from the street corner to the server room. It's sophisticated, and it's shockingly effective.
So walk us through the heist. I'm a hacker. How do I ghost broker a truck?
Okay, imagine you are the criminal. You don't buy a gun. You buy a domain name. You look at a legitimate freight brokerage, let's say fastfreight.com. You register fastfreight.com with 2 I's.
A classic phishing type-up.
Classic phishing. Then you hack into the email systems of the real brokers. You don't steal anything yet, you just watch. You monitor the traffic. You wait for a high-value load to be posted on a load board. Let's say a shipment of consumer goods.
Okay, I see the load. A truck full of iPhones or something.
You, the hacker, contact the shipper using your spoofed email. You pretend to be the legitimate broker. You say, I have a driver ready. You undercut the real price by a few $100s to make it irresistible.
And the shipper thinks I'm the guy they've worked with for 10 years.
Exactly. They see an email that looks right from a name they know, offering a good price. They don't notice the second I. Then you send your own driver or a complicit driver you hired on the dark web to the warehouse. They have the correct pickup number. They have the paperwork. The warehouse guy loads the truck, waves goodbye, and that truck vanishes.
It drives off the map.
It never arrives at the destination. And because you use legitimate-looking credentials, nobody realizes anything is wrong for days. The customer calls the real broker asking, where's my stuff? And the real broker says, what stuff? I never assigned that load. By then, the cargo is long gone.
That is terrifyingly simple. And what are they stealing? The report has a very specific list.
It is very specific. They target untraceable high-value goods. Electronics are common, but the big ones this year, snow crabs and protein powder.
Snow crabs. I mean, I have this mental image of a warehouse somewhere just stacked to the ceiling with stolen crustaceans and whey protein. It's like the diet of a very specific kind of gym bro.
It is funny to picture, but think about the logistics of fencing stolen crab. You need cold storage. You need a buyer who doesn't ask questions, maybe a restaurant chain or a shady wholesaler. It implies a sophisticated network.
And the cost. What are we talking about in terms of losses?
Cargo theft losses jumped 60% in 2025.
60%. That's a huge...
It is massive. And guess who pays for that?
We do.
Exactly. It's an inflation driver. If 60% more stuff is getting stolen, the insurance premiums skyrocket. The retailers raise prices to cover the shrinkage. So when you buy that protein powder at the store, you are paying a ghost broker tax.
So how do you stop a ghost?
You need better eyes. You need surveillance that goes beyond a signature on a clipboard. This is where the investment angle comes in. Axon Enterprise.
The taser company.
The taser and body cam company. We usually associate them with policing, but they are aggressively moving into logistics. They are building a nervous system for the supply chain.
How does that work? What does that even mean?
Cameras that automatically track license plates at distribution centers and match them to the dispatch order. Geofence sensors that track the load itself, not just the truck. Software that verifies identity using biometrics so you know the driver is who he says he is.
So the same tech that tracks a police interaction is now going to track your snow crabs.
It's the securitization of everything. But it's not just criminals attacking the supply chain, it's governments too.
Geopolitical angle.
Right. We're seeing a rise in protectionism that is forcing companies to play a ridiculous game of hopscotch. The memo points to the EU's Made in Europe rules.
This is about solar panels and green tech, right?
Yes. The EU is terrified of relying on China for renewable energy tech, so they are mandating that critical components, like solar inverters, be made locally.
So what does a massive Chinese company like Sungrow do? Do they just give up on Europe?
Of course not. They adapt. Sungrow is building factories in Poland.
So they can stamp Made in Poland on it and bypass the rule.
Exactly. It's tariff engineering. The product is Chinese design, the profits go to China, but the final screw was turned in Warsaw, so it's European.
But the Western governments aren't stupid. They know this is happening.
And they are getting paranoid about the firmware. This is the CISA warning, the Cyber and Infrastructure Security Agency. They are worried about what is inside that inverter.
Because an inverter connects to the power grid.
Right. It's the brain of the solar installation. If you have a Chinese-designed inverter managing the voltage for a whole neighborhood, and it has a backdoor in the code...
Someone in Beijing could flip a switch and brown out a suburb in Ohio.
That's the fear. Grid sabotage. It's not about the hardware anymore. It's about the code running the hardware. So the investment play here is to buy the trusted Western alternative, Rockwell Automation, ROK.
Because you can't trust the cheap import, you have to pay up for the secure domestic hardware.
Exactly. It's a world where trust commands a premium. Whether it's trusting that your broker isn't a ghost or trusting that your solar panel isn't a spy.
And speaking of power and critical infrastructure, let's talk about the elephant in the room. AI needs power.
So much power. We've talked about this before. Data centers are energy hogs, but the scale is changing. A simple Google search uses a tiny amount of energy. A ChatGPT query uses 10 to 15 times more.
And if we are moving to agentic AI, where the AI is working for you all day, that demand explodes.
It becomes insatiable. And wind and solar aren't enough because they are intermittent. The sun doesn't always shine. AI data centers need 247 baseload power.
Which usually means nuclear. But we haven't built a new nuclear plant in the U.S. in forever. The Vaughtal plant in Georgia took over a decade and went billions over budget.
Exactly. We can't wait 15 years for new plants. The AI companies need power now. Enter the uprate.
I love this concept because it feels like a cheat code. Explain the uprate.
Okay, so you have an existing nuclear reactor. It's been humming along since the 1980s. It produces, say, 1,000 megawatts of thermal energy. That's the heat. But the equipment turning that heat into electricity, the steam turbines, the generators, is 40 years old.
It's analog technology.
Yeah.
Inefficient.
Right. So companies like Alva Energy, which is backed by Pat Gelsinger, the former Intel CEO, are coming in and saying, don't build a new reactor, just supercharge the old one.
How much extra power can you actually get out of it?
By replacing the turbines with modern high-efficiency designs, improving the fluid dynamics, and digitizing the control systems, you can squeeze out an extra 200 to 300 megawatts from the same reactor core.
200 megawatts is what? A small coal plant.
It's a massive amount of power, enough for a large data center. And you get it without digging a new hole in the ground or getting a new permit for a site. You're just upgrading what's already there.
It's basically putting a modern fuel injection system on a vintage car engine.
That's a perfect analogy. It's thermal efficiency. You are capturing energy that used to be wasted as heat.
What about those small modular reactors, the SMRs everyone talks about, the mini nukes? Aren't they the future?
SMRs are great on paper, but they are still years away from commercial deployment, and the costs are still pretty theoretical. The uprate is here now. It's the pragmatic solution for the next decade.
And the memo highlights Jacobs Solutions, ticker J, as the play here.
Jacobs is the engineering firm that actually knows how to do these retrofits. It's a pick and shovel play. They don't own the plant. They just get paid to do the incredibly complex engineering work to fix it.
Old infrastructure plus new tech equals value. That seems to be the recurring theme of the day.
It is. We're finding value in the legacy systems, nuclear plants, V8 factories, steel mills, because the new stuff, like the EV hype and pure AI hype, is hitting a wall.
Speaking of hitting a wall, or maybe moving through one, we need to get into the science deep dive. This is segment 5.
This is the part where we really stretch our brains, the learner segment.
We have 3 topics here, and honestly, each one sounds like science fiction. But let's start with mitodrift.
Cellular time travel.
Okay, stop. Time travel is a heavy word. What are we actually looking at here? Don't oversell it.
Fair enough. It's not DeLorean time travel. It's lineage tracing. It's the ability to look at a population of cells today and reconstruct their entire history like a family tree.
How do you do that?
Okay, usually to trap cells, we have to modify them. We inject a dye or a genetic barcode. That's invasive. Mitodrift uses something that is already inside every cell, mitochondrial DNA.
The powerhouse of the cell.
Yes, but think of it as the diary of the cell. Mitochondria have their own DNA, separate from the nucleus, and it mutates, it makes typos at a very predictable rate.
Okay, so it's like a clock.
It's like a clock. Now here is the key concept: stochastic segregation.
Explain that like I'm 5.
Imagine a jar of marbles, half red, half blue. Every time the cell divides, it dumps the marbles out and randomly splits them into 2 new jars.
Okay, so it's a random process.
Over time, purely by chance, one jar might end up with mostly red marbles, another with mostly blue. This random shuffling happens every generation, and the typos in the mitochondrial DNA are the different colored marbles.
So by looking at the ratio of red to blue marbles in the cell now,
you can mathematically calculate how many times the jars were poured. You can build a family tree. You can trace that cell back to the original stem cell without ever having touched it before.
that is incredibly clever. It's nature's barcode. Why does this matter for us?
2 huge reasons. First, oncology. Specifically, multiple myeloma. We can now spot therapy-resistant clones before they take over.
So you can see the bad guy hiding in the family tree before he starts the war.
Precisely. You can see a tiny population of resistant cells starting to grow, and you can switch treatments before the relapse happens. It's predictive oncology. Second, longevity. We can pinpoint which stem cells fail as we age. We can see the lineage of aging itself.
That is, well, it's profound. It's moving from a snapshot of our biology to a movie.
Exactly. And speaking of movies, let's talk about how cancer moves. This second topic, the viscosity of cancer, changes everything I thought I knew about metastasis.
I always thought cancer spread because it was aggressive, or the tissue was soft or hard.
We used to focus on stiffness, the elasticity. We thought hard tumors pushed their way out. But this study on pancreatic intraepithelial neoplasia pannon found something else.
It's not the stiffness. It's the viscosity.
It's the fluid resistance. It's the gooiness of the environment.
Explain the difference.
Stiffness is like pushing against a spring or a wall. It's solid property. Viscosity is like swimming in honey versus swimming in water. It's a fluid property.
Okay, I'm with you.
This study found that the fluid around the cancer cells gets gooey. It has high viscosity. And the cancer cells have a mechanism, a macrotransduction, to feel this goo.
They can feel the honey.
Yes. They have little protein hooks called integrins. When they feel that drag, that resistance, it flips a genetic switch inside the cell.
The EMT transition.
The epithelial to mesenchymal transition. Basically, the cell senses the drag and says, this environment is hostile. I need to leave. It dissolves its connections to its neighbors and turns invasive. It becomes migratory.
So the gooniness of the environment is what tells the cancer to spread.
Yes. It's a mechanical signal, not just a chemical one. The physics of the fluid is a trigger.
So if we can change the viscosity, if we can make the honey more like water,
we might be able to freeze the cancer in place. You aren't killing the cell. You are blinding it to the signal that tells it to invade.
and that leads to the connected dots part of the memo, clonal mechanomics.
This is where Mehta gets brilliant. He proposes combining these two things. Use mitodrift, the tracker, to watch individual clones of cells in a high-viscosity environment, the trigger.
A 3D pancreatic ductal organoid on a chip.
Try saying that 3 times fast. But yes, you build a microfluidic chip that mimics the gooey environment of a pancreas. You put the cells in, and you screen thousands of drugs to see which ones stop the physical reaction to viscosity.
That is fascinating. It's engineering a cure based on physics. Okay, one more science topic. Anorexia.
This one is a paradigm shift. We usually think of anorexia nervosa as a mood disorder, a psychological issue with body image.
But this research suggests it's a circuit loop, a hardware problem.
A pathological persistence. The brain gets stuck.
Where? What part of the brain?
In the nucleus accumbens. the reward center. Specifically, it involves something called kainate receptors, KIRs.
I've heard of dopamine receptors, but kainate.
They are less famous but crucial here. Most neurons fire like a spark quick, on-off. Kainate receptors create what are called slow excitatory postsynaptic potentials.
Translate that for me.
Think of it as a smolder instead of a spark, a slow burn. These receptors keep the circuit active for a long, long time. They make the brain permissive to disorganized activity.
So the brain gets locked into a loop. The thought pattern just can't shut off.
Exactly. The don't eat command gets stuck in this slow-burning loop, and the person physically cannot break out of it. It's not a choice. It's a wiring glitch.
And the cure then would be
Targeted antagonists, drugs that specifically block these kainate receptors. If you can put out the smolder, you might be able to break the loop and restore normal function to the circuit.
it's seeing mental illness as a hardware problem, not just a software problem.
Which is a theme across all of this: science mechanics, physics, circuits. We are getting under the hood of biology in a really fundamental way.
Okay, let's zoom back out. We've done the micro, cells, the neurons. Now let's do the macro. Segment 6, global intelligence and corporate drama.
Because nothing happens in a vacuum. The boardroom is just as chaotic as the karaoke market.
Let's start with Goldman Sachs. The general counsel, Catherine Rummler, is out.
Forced to resign. And the reason is the ghost of Jeffrey Epstein.
It's 2026, and those files are still taking people down.
It's the zero-tolerance environment. The memo notes that reputational risk is now absolute. It used to be that if you were good at your job, you could survive a scandal. Not anymore. The board's tolerance for that kind of risk is zero.
So every board of directors is now looking at their C-suite and thinking, do we have a ticking time bomb here? What's in their past?
Exactly. And that creates an investment play. Kroll, K-R-O-L, the corporate investigators, they are going to be busy panic vetting executives across the Fortune 500.
Panic is a great business model. Then we have OpenAI. More drama. Executive Ryan Bayermeister fired.
This is a complex one. The headline is sexual discrimination, but the context is the adult mode controversy.
Right. She opposed the launch of AI erotica features. She was on the safety and alignment team.
She was the safety voice. She argued that allowing adult mode opens up Pandora's box of ethical and safety issues and could lead to harmful, non-consensual content generation down the line.
But let me play devil's advocate here. OpenAI is a business. There is massive demand for, let's call it romantic AI. If they don't build it, someone else will.
That was the counter-argument. Monetization versus safety. The company wants the engagement. And frankly, in a free market, preventing adult mode is leaving billions on the table. It was a showdown, and monetization won.
So she was fired. Safety lost.
It's the internal war of AI, and it's heating up. The memo highlights that this isn't just internal anymore, it's political.
The pack warfare.
Anthropic, OpenAI's rival, is pouring $20 million into a super PAC called Public First Action. OpenAI has its own, leading the future.
So the battle for AGI isn't going to be fought in code. It's going to be fought in Washington, D.C. with lobbying dollars.
It's the maturity of the industry. You know you've made it when you start buying senators. This is about shaping regulation in your favor and kneecapping your competition.
And speaking of governments and tech, we have to touch on the surveillance updates. Iran.
Using facial recognition to track protesters, it's the export of the authoritarian tech stack. You don't need secret police on every corner if you have cameras and algorithms that can track people's movements and associations.
And Meta Facebook is bringing that tech to our faces.
The Ray-Ban smart glasses, they are planning a feature called Name Tag,
Which does exactly what it sounds like. You look at someone, it tells you who they are.
facial recognition on your face connected to the social graph.
That feels invasive. I mean, imagine walking down the street and everyone knows your name, your job, your credit score.
It creates a world without anonymity. And while they say they might limit it to social connections, the capability is there once the genie is out of the bottle.
Can't put it back. And finally, the CIA is getting creative.
Recruiting Chinese military officers with Mandarin language videos.
Citing the purges in the PLA.
It's fascinating psychological warfare. They are saying, your boss is purging generals. Your loyalty won't save you. You might be next. Come work for us. It's targeting disillusionment at the highest levels.
It's a bold move. It shows the cracks in the geopolitical landscape.
The memo also has a few quick hits in the global intelligence log that really paint the picture. There's a note on the Trump administration planning to roll back tariffs on steel and aluminum.
Which connects back to our earlier discussion. If tariffs drop, that helps the manufacturers who need to import. But the political yo-yoing Makes long-term planning a nightmare for these companies.
Exactly. And on the health front, there's a note about Kennedy allies targeting state-level vaccine mandates for school children.
Which the source flags as a potential long-term risk for public health infrastructure and localized outbreaks. Again, it's this theme of systems, whether it's supply chains or herd immunity being tested or dismantled.
It all feels so fragile.
So let's wrap this up. We have covered a massive amount of ground, from karaoke crashes to mitochondrial time travel.
If we synthesize this, what are we looking at? We are living in a world of hidden signals and misread signals.
The algorithms read a signal from a press release and got it wrong.
The cancer cells read a mechanical signal from the fluid and decided to invade.
The anorexic brain gets stuck in a signal loop it can't escape.
And the ghost brokers are spoofing the digital signals of identity to steal the physical goods.
It's all a web. And if you pull one string like a tax credit expiring, the whole web shakes. It shows how interconnected and, frankly, how brittle everything is.
Which brings us to our final thought, a provocation for you, the listener.
I can't stop thinking about the ghost brokers and the name tag glasses.
Yeah, Juan.
We are building a world of ambient surveillance. The AI agents, the agent layer, are going to be doing things for us, buying things, scheduling things, managing our lives.
And we have ghost brokers hacking the physical supply chain through simple digital tricks.
What happens when the ghost brokers start hacking the AI agents?
Oh, that is the question.
If a karaoke press release can crash the market, what happens when a hacker spoofs your personal AI agent? When they ghost broker your digital identity, not just a truckload of snow crabs, what can they make your agent do on your behalf?
We are entering a world where privacy isn't just a right anymore. It's a luxury asset, maybe the most valuable one.
The ultimate luxury asset, the ability to be unconnected, to be invisible to the algorithm.
That is a chilling thought to leave you with on this Friday the 13th.
Indeed. As always, thank you for diving deep with us. Stay curious.
Stay skeptical.
And maybe check your solar inverter's firmware.
And your snow crab supply.
Standard reminder. This is for informational purposes only, not financial advice. We'll see you in the next deep dive.